sit there, but
I'm kidding, you'll be fine.
I will if
Yeah,
you want
maybe
me
a
to.
little later.
I am kind of lonely over here. Put on deodorant, I'm
Are you staying there, Greg, or are you kind of?
You can sit wherever you want.
Oh,
He's gonna sit there.
that's all right.
All right, I think everybody's here, so welcome. This is a public work session, and we have two topics. The main topic is we are talking about the old middle school building, and then we will also be joined, I believe, via Zoom. Rick Roll talking to us about a grant submission that is related to having more counselors available in our throughout our school district. So I believe Scott has. Are you going to kick us off talking about a
I
little?
can. Yeah.
That'd be great.
So I'll miss, you guys think I misspeak from what we covered before holiday. So this NLCS superintendent tasked the school board, was tasked by the school board to put a committee together to look at the recently vacated Lake Middle School building. The committee was directed to drill down to the level of detail required to sufficiently develop options for the board of detailed economic analysis. I don't have the exact dates that we met, but the final committee consisted of two current NLCS teachers, two retired teachers, one former NLCS teacher, and two school board members. And then there was a process that the committee went through, and this was the considerations and criteria that the committee used. Students are at the center of every decision. Emphasize academic excellence. Increasing enrollment is a high priority. Emphasize options that make us more competitive. Funding is available but not unlimited. One-year implementation plan is better, but a 2 or 3 year plan is okay. And some options may have a ripple effect. Meaning that if we do this, then something else may happen because of that. So we went through basically, I don't know, 8 or 9 steps, but the first one was just brainstorming. Anything and everything that you think we could do or should do, bring it up. And then from each one of those, we did a top-level review of the positive aspects, any concerns or issues about each one of those. And then we looked at every option again, what could be potential steps to implement those options. And we did an initial review of some data and discussed what we already had available and what we thought we would need moving forward. And we took a tour of all of the past middle school facilities. And we invited some subject matter experts in from the corporation that talked to us about some of our options during the entire process. And then at the very end, we put together a priority list to present to Mr. Yancey and the board. So basically, our brainstorming options came with 15 different options. And like I say, we looked at positives and negatives and steps and all that for those. And then we did a deep dive in each one of those and eliminated 8 of those. So in the final 8, we gathered more information, took a closer look, and there were 3 options that we considered to be good options, but eventually decided that they weren't at the top. One was 6th grade academy, one was High Ability Academy, and one was a junior high career center. So we did a lot of research on those and talked to a lot of experts, brought some people in, and just decided either competitiveness or timing or other options that we were doing, those weren't the top. And then so we ended up having 5 recommended options that were presented to Mr. Yancey and the board. One was to reopen Olytic Junior High. One was to establish a K-12 charter school in Olytic sponsored by NLCS. One was to reopen Olytic Junior High and Chadwick Junior High. One was to reopen Chadwick Junior High, and the other was to move the junior high to Olytic. So those were the 5 that we thought gave us the best chance to be competitive and improve our enrollment and meet all the other criteria. So that's just a quick summary. The process took us probably 2.5, 3 months to get through it, and we presented this to the board in January.
Okay. So I think what we need to talk about is based on those, five recommendations and also all the other things that we have heard, what we want.
I have some data I'd like to go through.
Okay, yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking what, we're trying to figure out what to do next.
I apologize on the printout of this, because should have saved it to a PDF first, so our pie charts don't have the labels on them. In colors, they should be okay. I'll just run through these real quick. Some of this you've already seen, but we really haven't had a chance to talk about it. Have I had one? Right here. Come on. Here you go. Here. Pass that down to Greg. So this top chart, we've seen it before. I mean, Adam showed it to us at least a year ago, maybe sooner, or a lot longer. We just added 2024, so we show that there's been a decrease here from 2011 to 24. A little steeper decrease after the consolidation, but it's been steady declining from a lot of reasons. But this, the dip from 45 to 36 was, I think, post-consolidation, and this last one was post-closing on this. So the next page, I just looked at cumulative loss for those last years. So rather than say we lost so many each year, so if you add the previous year to that year, because in the bottom chart here, it shows you a cumulative effect as far as the funding goes. So we don't just lose, like in 2022, if we drop 770, or I guess that would if we drop 400, if we add it to the previous, and we lose that 80 million as well as the current one. So it just shows the cumulative losses in terms of student enrollment and potential funding. If you have any questions, Tyler, while we're going through it, don't wait till the end. So the next one, I just did a quick look at. This top one is junior high for our enrollment. The next two are, the orange one is Dollins and the blue one is Needmore. The labels didn't print out. I showed that
Against got the oranges.
the orange is Dollins, the blue is Needmore, and the green is just junior high, 7th and 8th. So I was want to take a look at just the last few years, and so in the elementary we kind of stabilized. We got down around 230, 240, and kind of stabilized there. But post closing the middle school, the junior high level is still dropping, not quite stabilized as much, and I think that it's directly related to that decision. So I just wanted to, and I kind of focus on that part of the county, and you'll see that in a little bit. So. And then the next one, yes, I think you guys have seen this as well, but I apologize that the pie charts aren't labeled, but the top here where it says students with legal settlement in North Lawrence Community Schools belongs to the pie chart on the left, and the students transferring out of North Lawrence is the pie chart on the right. But basically, we have 4,572 students that have legal settlement in our corporation boundaries, and only 75% of those attend our schools. So 1 out of every 4 student is going somewhere, that lives in our school corporation district, or going somewhere else. So that total is 1133. And then there's a breakdown there, but if you go to the next page, I just put the table in there. And I sorted it by largest number. So in different categories, public transfer, non-public transfer, and parent choice. So we see LCIS and Springville there at the top. So those are the 2 highest, and then St. Vincent. And then Mitchell, Monroe County, Eastern Green, and then the Union Corporation. And the Union Corporation and the Indiana Connection Academy, I did a little bit of research on those, and those are basically I think like online school, so I don't know if that's part of homeschool or just online or what, but, I didn't delve into it real deeply, but that's what they are, they're online, so I mean, I guess you can, if you're homeschooled, maybe you're enrolled to it or whatever, but, and then, in St. Vincent, Covenant Christian, Lighthouse Christian Academy were the non-public transfers. And then I just stopped at Medora there, because everything else was below double digits, but. So this is just a list, and this, all of the other school corporations that our students are attending, so again, like 25% or not. So,
This is this year's school year, 23-24.
this is, yeah.
Hey Scott, where did you get the 4,572 students reported as settlement in North Lawrence?
That came from the Department of Education website,
Okay.
so that,
And what do they, count as settlement? Is that like living here over,
Yeah.
50% of the year or something? So like if it's
Yeah,
a
there's-
split
yeah.
custody situation, because I mean, you can't believe someone lives here and goes to Clarksville.
but we do, like when we do the ADM, we have to verify that everybody that we're getting paid, it has legal residence. They have legal residence, so it could be, maybe they're legal residents here, but they live with another parent or another family member or something, yeah. Yeah, a couple of them are really, like Clarksville is like 0.5, but, and some of the, I didn't research all these, but, some of them seem a little odd, but,
And now it's such that you can choose to take your kid wherever you want, right? As long as.
yeah, so that's the parent choice, public transfer is parent choice, so that's what a lot of these are. Yeah, charter schools, public, the parent choice, I'm not sure the other categories, but it probably says there on that previous page, it tells you the definition of those, but, so the one is different traditional public corporation for reasons other than parent choice, so it could be a legal thing. So anyhow, the next page, any other questions on that? Well, the next page, and again, I apologize if my labels didn't make it, but I just grouped, I guess, the top list minus the non-public schools, broke those down. And then the green would be like the online, those online ones, homeschool. And then the 126 at the bottom is just all those at the bottom that were non-double digits. So just kind of threw all those together, just to kind of give you an idea. So, and then the next page, I took those same groups and just tied it to potential loss of revenue within not attending our corporation. So, it's around $8 million, but.
Is that per year? $8 million per year?
Yeah, so I used the 7,100 figure that we're getting right now in our monthly budget, whatever it is, from the state. It varies, we usually use 7,000, we've been as high as 7,250, so I just use 7,100. So if you look at that number of 702, and we're in that blue group, then that would equate to this, so, and basically it's a fourth of our budget, right?
Right.
Because it's 25% of the potential enrollment, so. So then, on the next page, not as neat because it's handwritten, and Mom always said I shouldn't adopt her because my handwriting was so bad. But what I've got here shows Oolitic, Springville, Fayetteville, Eastern Green, and Monroe County. And it shows that portion of the county. So we had 535 students registered or legal settlement in our school corporation district that do not attend, that go to those schools, right? And of course, then straight down 37 is Mitchell and Orleans, and then the boys a little bit closer to Shasta. So just looking at geographically, you can see that having Oolitic Junior High open puts us competitive in an area with over 500 students, right? So to me, that makes a lot of sense to reopen it and make it legitimate junior high, because there's a potential of nearly half at 1133, so nearly half of those. And unfortunately, the data doesn't really show you how many went to which school and what grades and all that. So, but we do know that but there are some in our corporation who are looking at going outside the corporation because they only have one choice of junior high, and we know that's a fact. And some will not only take their 7th and 8th grade, but also think, you know, if we look this proximity geographically and look at the numbers, it makes sense to make us more competitive in this area of the county, so.
Well, that's where most of their students come from anyway, is that area.
Yeah, you know, so, and I say like the elementaries and Oolitic and Needmore have kind of settled there right around the 220. But I think the 7th and 8th is where we take the most hit if we don't reopen the junior high. So I just have one more slide. And so I went back and looked historically what percentage of junior high went to Oolitic. And I just went back a couple years in middle school and a couple years in after consolidation. But basically right around 30% of our junior high students have gone to Oolitic over the years. I mean, it's just kind of my
Of our
average.
current ones,
Just like when we had three
Oh, I see
three
what
middle
you're saying.
schools,
Okay,
about
yeah.
30% of our middle school people went to
Went to
Oolitic.
Oolitic,
And then we just had 2 junior highs, about 30% of the total went to Oolitic. So, and I just went to a few years. So, and then the bottom line there, it shows the current enrollment. Looking at this year's 6th and 7th graders moving to 7th, 8th next year, if no changes, will drop from 527 to 499. So if we just look at our 6th and 7th graders this year, they'll move up 499, so 30%, that would be 150. So just based historically, we could see that, at least that many in Oolitic. But I think due to what's happened to make us more competitive, a lot of them have already gone to other places. We'll draw some of those back too. So our committee estimated 25 to 35 additional students if we were to reopen Oolitic Junior High. So I just thought it was, take a look at, with this transfer data, it's alarming that 75, we only get 75% of our legal settlement. I think that's, I didn't look how compared to the rest of the state, but it's,
Not the rest of the state, I've got it relative.
not sure how the rest of the state is, but it's bad no matter how the rest of the state is.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to look geographically how, at least half of it's centered there. And one thing, that the Mitchell number, there's actually 47 who transferred from Mitchell up here, but we still lost 111 to them. So the net was not 111, but we did lose 111. I think that's the number we need to focus on. So. And this is all Department of Education stuff. I just try to put it a little different. So from the consolidation to now, we've lost $7,150,000 in ADM revenue. And then with not even the full 25% going, we'll lose another $8 million potential revenue. We don't know for sure exactly how many of those will come back if we open Oolitic Junior High, but we know some will, and we won't lose as many. So I think if we reopen it, take the time to do it right, then we can stop the drop of ADM. And we talked a little bit about, briefly, I guess, the facility study, but I don't think we should wait for facility study. I think this data shows it's a pretty urgent issue. We've already spent money on Parkview, and the current bond, we're going to spend some money on the high school and Needmore. And next round, we'll be spending money on Shoswick and Needmore. So we know Oolitic is a good facility. It's in good shape. A lot of excess capacity. It's got a lot of land. It could easily be added to if it had to later on. We know that Oolitic will be part of the final solution. We're not sure about some of the other ones. So I just think, and then the next bond that we get, it'll take a few years to pay that off. So I don't think, based on these numbers, we can afford to wait longer, to wait till we get facility study done and see what's going on. Wait till those bonds are paid off before we do something there. So.
One piece I don't agree with there, Scott,
Okay.
and it's not that I don't agree with it, this was a good job, but you talk about the 535 in the Oolitic district right there in that area right here in this map that we can draw from, but the biggest problem is if the charter schools don't move to Medora, they're both in that space as well. And that's what makes it a tough steal, because a lot of the kids you're talking about are closer to them than they are us.
To the charter school?
Yeah,
Yeah, but
They're that.
their legal settlement is in our,
absolutely.
and it'd be much easier to compete if Olynyk is open than
A little
if it's
closer.
not, right? I mean, we're not gonna compete if they have to come downtown Bedford, right? So this, I mean, and I'm sure, I'm not, I guess we'd find that out, but a lot of them wanted to go to Olynyk, and not to those charter schools if it was open.
I'm just stating the obvious, that of those
Although-
35, they're both in that district.
Oh, yeah, no
Basically,
question,
yeah,
and that's
so-
why I showed, I mean, these four schools that were drawn, right? And Monroe County, I mean, some of those are probably because parents go up there.
Sure.
But Eastern Green and Springville and LCIS are a direct result of the consolidation. And then, I know Springville maxed out because of the way junior high closed in the last year.
They're not maxed out, that's a strange way to say it.
Yeah. And
They
then,
have,
if,
25 seventh
they have
graders
one over eighth grade, right?
and nine
Yeah.
eighth graders.
But I think the elementary maxed out.
Maxed out to maybe a class size of 7. I think.
They're good press. If they were solid enough to add on to their building, we'd really take a hit, I think. But, I mean, fortunately, and I think with the new principal at Dollins, it's on the upswing. There's a lot of good things going on there. It not only stabilized, but grew a little bit. And I think that's positive, and that will impact the school that we have there as well, so. I just think it's
So you think we should
urgent that
open,
we do something.
keep BMS open and open OMS? Or are
Yeah.
you saying move them all to OMS?
No, I think we should
Have two.
keep Bedford Junior High open, but also Olynyk Junior High.
That's why a lot of our students left middle school, because they did not want to go to BMS.
And, you know, and,
That's why they went to Springville.
and,
Or Mitchell.
and previously, you know, Bedford Junior High still got 70%, but it makes us more attractive. I mean, we have 2 junior highs in the area instead of 1, right? And it's got a history of being a good school, we can make it there again, but this, 25%, one out of every 4 student not going to school in our corporation is not good.
So I will continuously lean upon the fact that we've had Dr. Halleck and I believe Mr. Yancey both state that financially it is not feasible to be able to open that, nor do I think that, I liken this very much to the consolidation of B&M. You know, by the time I got to the high school in '81, I didn't even know that a high school existed in Heltonville. I didn't really pay attention to it, and I think a lot of students are like that, and parents, by and large, they're very loud and boisterous about it, but then it just, they kind of get into, I mean, look, where's all the Facebookers? They're not here, because they've moved on. And I think as much as you love Olynyk and want it to be junior high, I don't think financially it's feasible, nor should there's so many moving pieces that we've talked about, that just opening it up with the hope that it might fill up, the hope that it might keep people from moving away, I don't think is fiscally responsible. So I think that we have a 2 or 3 year planning period that we've got to figure out all the pieces, and knowing that Olynyk will be a part of that, and it possibly could be a middle school again. I don't know, but I think there's so many things that we've talked about and things that we need to evaluate, because education has changed. That's a part of it. You know, you've got COVID, education's changed, kids have changed, teachers have changed. This new thing that they're doing, the state's doing with the teachers and getting them, that's going to be an exodus of teachers, I fear, with things. So, I mean, I just think fiscally, it's not the right time, and we don't have the money to be able to do it, on the hope that it might fill.
It's not a hope, I mean.
We have no idea. We didn't, if we'd had the students there, we wouldn't have closed it.
But
We closed it when the students were there.
That's not an argument.
You can't
Do
say
you
that,
re-
because we
Sure we
closed it
can,
when
because we saw
students
the
were there.
numbers. We weren't fiscally, it wasn't working.
but we voted to keep it open.
I could go a long story about that, how that
Yeah.
happened. It wouldn't have happened had some other things not happened, but it did.
But
But
the honestly
we
believe
closed it, but we
that,
voted to close it too, and we closed it.
After it was emptied out.
Well, it was a financial problem before, which is why we had that discussion to close it in the
so
first
do you
place.
really think that the numbers that Dr. Halley gave us were accurate?
Because, I mean, it's been in
That number
education
was even
for 50
accurate
years.
for VMS. I mean, those are exaggerated. We're looking at 150 students, and we already have an infrastructure of support at Dons, so we wouldn't have to
How
have
many kids were
a
there
full complement
before,
of
the year
teachers.
before it closed? How many kids were there?
179 in 2022, 217 in 2021. Data before that combined sixth grade with it, so it's a little bit
Yeah.
apples and oranges. But
It was 179 in 22 before it was systematically destroyed. And we have a, talking about fiscally responsible or taking the time to do it, we have a facility right now that's losing $1.13 million a year. And we're spending $1.3 million out of the education fund to keep it working.
Talking about BMS?
Wait for that.
Oh,
So,
But that, and part of that's a little bit different, because one, there's a plan to resolve that, and two, the value that it's bringing to that segment of people is immense. Again, I'm not saying that would I like to go back to the way it was with Shawswick and BMS and Olynyk? Absolutely. I'd love to see that many students. And if Mr. Yancey can crunch the numbers and say, we can do it, I will follow his recommendation, but I don't see it.
I do think that the break-even number from the data I looked at before on this, I do think the break-even number for a school, which I think Halleck was agreeing with, was around the 200 mark. And Steve, said he learned that from IU in 1990 something. And when I calculated it, I looked at the loss and things like that, and there seemed to be a chart that put it at about 200. So even at 150, I think you're looking at a financially losing proposition. Now, back it up quite a bit. I think there were some options, or hybrids of options, from what Scott and his committee presented that haven't been fully discussed, or were thrown out early and didn't make it to the final presentation. One of those, so I think there are parents who will not send their kids to BMS.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Their options are St. Vincent, the charter school, LCIS, SEA, or out of district, out of county, or Mitchell, Monroe, things like that. It would be a defensive position somewhat, but you could say, all right, let's make single class or double class offerings, which is how the charters implement it, for 7th and 8th grade. So you mentioned one of the options was a K through 12th charter school. That's I think a bridge too far. I think it's a defensive position, and I think you'd pull more from BMS than you would from the charters, but you could say, let's have single classrooms 7th and 8th grade, and make essentially Olynyk K through 8, which it started out in 2022 as, and has slowly withered down.
That's K through 8 long before that.
No, I mean K through 8 in the sense of not a junior high in 6th, 7th, or 7th and 8th. More of they're not switching classes, they don't have different subject, different teachers. It's
Talking
how
about self-contained.
self-contained is
Yeah.
maybe the word I'm looking for. It's how the charters right now, LCIS and SEA, are teaching their 7th and 8th graders.
It's kind of how St. Vincent is too. They do move classrooms, but they're as a
Yeah, I mean there could be some nuance in there, but it's basically you would be not prescribing a full-on overhead and resources associated with a full junior high. You would be essentially treating it like it was a 6th grade or 5th grade, an elementary style, just adding on 7th and 8th. Now, I think it would take a little bit of analysis to say how many teachers would that take me? How many students would I pull, even if I maxed out at 25 per classroom? If that's the max, if it's 20, if it's 24, I don't know what it is or should be. You probably will pull some students from the charter schools, but I think you'll pull more students out of the BMS side. So I think there's a little bit of business case analysis to see what really makes the most sense there. The The other option I think you threw out, but I think needs to be more part of a comprehensive plan and have to look at longer, is the sixth grade center approach, where you would have, effectively, I think there's a couple camps of thought, that one, that sixth graders ought to be in middle school, ought to be in junior high, or be in middle school. And some think, no, they belong better in elementary. I'm not gonna tell you which one it is, but there are other corporations that have a model where they use a sixth grade center approach, I think Seymour being one of them. And,
Seymour's at 6 now.
is it fifth and sixth? Okay.
That's called the
But you're right, they did have a sixth grade.
They had a sixth grade center.
Academy.
Friends of mine had their oldest go through it, it was just a sixth grade center. So a sixth grade center, again, that's a zero-sum game in some sense, because you're pulling your sixth graders out of your elementary.
Right.
And then you have to look at, okay, I've just lowered the capacity fill in my my elementaries, and does that make sense? And what's the reason for doing it? Okay, we wanna be more competitive. I think there are a few other reasons maybe to look at. There are some negatives. Logistics and travel and transportation probably being one of them, but I think you need to, I think we just gotta open the junior high is not the exact right answer, and there could be a couple other things to look at before we, as we talk about the options.
So if the argument is that we only have enough kids to support one middle school, it's kind of what I think Tracy was saying. I think about, does it make more sense to have those kids all of them at the Olytic building versus the Bedford building? Because the Bedford building, I think, has more, it's older, much older, right? So that's what I'm thinking about. Does it make more sense to have something, and then maybe those people who are sending their kids to Springville, those kids are sending to Mitchell, even though it's the same group, would feel more comfortable sending their kids to Olytic.
And that's where you run into a capacity issue.
Yeah, that's,
If the 2017 ISU feasibility study was right, the capacity of OMS, and that study is advertised at 550. I don't know, Scott, if you guys did a study. At 19 classrooms, at 25 per classroom,
we had more than that.
my calculation is it's 475. Regardless, it's somewhere between 475 and 550. We have 527 this year, projected 499 next year.
I don't
So
think the numbers that did the study matched the numbers exactly that we saw on the tool.
did it not?
Yeah.
So bottom line is cramming them all in there. I mean, can you fit them all in there physically? I'm not sure you can. And just what's
It
known
would
as
impact
the,
elementary.
you'd have to
But that's
bleed over,
just-
Dylan.
If we did that, we would lose a ton more kids.
Oh, from the BMS
I was
side.
saying-
Yeah, from the BMS side, we
Yeah.
would, I mean, we've not touched those kids yet, we've still got most of them. And if we did that, we're gonna lose a lot of BMS kids. But the way I look at it, what we're doing now is not working. We keep losing kids every year because of the way our school system is set up. We've got to do something different to try to draw those kids back.
I'm gonna show you one of
And if we just wait 2 or 3 years while we talk about it and study it, we're gonna lose more. And I don't wanna lose more. I mean, 25% aren't coming here now.
Yeah.
And that's,
So that data, that transfer data only goes back to 2021. You can't find anything earlier.
It was different.
Before
they tracked it
consolidation.
differently in Bedford.
They tracked it, yeah. Okay. So before or actually, the first year of consolidation, before anyone had any options, we had 486 students that were already leaving. So, the consolidation didn't drive off 1,133. It probably drove off some 700, and the population is trending down. So no one retains 100% of their students. We can look at it, and the best.
I'm more concerned about the number than I am the reason.
Yeah.
We're here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's 25%. I mean, we're losing one out of
Right,
four.
but it's a little bit, so say there's 535 students there are 535, perhaps not all those are gonna go to OMS, only the 7th and 8th graders as we've got it structured now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that that's 535 potential students to come back to our corporation. And they could come back, need more, they could come back partly, I don't know, but that's a lot, if they've taken, if the parent takes a child out because they don't like the junior high option, they have siblings that they go as well.
Yeah,
We
from
don't
lower
have the
grades.
granularity to know that for sure, but we do know it's an issue, and we know that after the decision was made last year, the numbers are still dropped.
We had,
And we see our seventh and eighth grade numbers continue to
So
drop.
you think 130 is about what we're talking,
150,
150?
a minimum, and that's it,
And if
you know,
we-
that's just based on historical data, it could be more.
And if we did it in that,
And I think 170 was
format,
like the break-even point.
if we did it in
the
that
last time we looked.
format that you were talking about, basically the self-contained,
We wouldn't need.
couldn't get
a whole
it.
complement, You know, with that many kids, we could get by with one. group,
And that's
one
allowing
group-
them
One group
to
of core.
pick their middle school too,
Yeah, I mean. it'd
not
be open-
having an
it'd
assigned
be-
middle school.
It'd be open, you have that open to the parents and students in which junior high they wanted to attend.
So
In
you
the-
go
in the
to
county,
Libby
just that age.
and sit there all day with one teacher all day teaching every subject, or you can go to Bedford Middle School and switch for every class and have a whole lot more electives and clubs and stuff, so.
yeah, I'm not
Well,
saying
I
that's the
mean,
best approach.
No, I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm just,
And you could implement where you have some
And where are you gonna find a
switching and
teacher
you
that
have some
wants to
clubs. I
teach
mean, if you're gonna sell it that way,
Licensing,
if you're gonna
sure.
sell it, who's gonna go? I mean, you know, you can have your late cut off or you can get $16, what you wanna do. I mean, you have to, we have to make,
what are you talking about?
we have to make some offerings available. I mean, I
Or
just,
there have to be the
I'm
elected.
concerned with being competitive for those. One out of four.
I mean, we had trouble finding teachers when it was just before we closed it. It was a struggle to get a teacher out there because,
We let them leave.
I'm sorry,
I said, we let them leave.
we let them leave.
Let them leave?
We,
Can't make them
we're gonna
stay.
time up. I mean,
Gee.
we didn't let them leave.
Well, never mind.
They left.
Okay.
And then the ones that we tried to hire, when they found out the situation, what it was going to be, they went other places. They didn't want to teach in that environment because they were going to be teaching more than one class and more than one grade. And it was just, when they didn't have to do that other places, teachers are hard to, they're going to get harder to come by.
so if we had 150 students there, that gives us a little over $1 million, $1,065,000. What would it?
It's not, but
Where
be
we get
careful
those
you're saying 150
I'm just,
Yeah, where we
because
get those
saying,
kids?
You're
that's
gonna
what I'm just
you're
saying.
gonna take some of
if-
those from our own.
From our
hire.
own.
Yeah, so
It's
that's,
not 150 additional students.
So I think,
Okay, I see what you're
look,
saying.
there are,
But it makes, it'll make us more competitive, so we think the numbers, we'll pull some in.
So you're saying
But the
invest,
150 would be what we would have to be able to facilitate.
facilitate in
there
order
with-
to get it
with
open.
Teachers and staff, right, we have a core staff there, support, but we would have to bring teachers in for those subjects.
And
right?
then
So-
grow it at. the
Yeah,
end.
so it wouldn't be the $2 million that was shown the last
Got
time we
it.
talked about this, but it would be some, there'd be some cost, because it wouldn't be, and then Bedford Junior High wouldn't need as many teachers potentially, so, just, because their numbers would drop some, so, you have to do some analysis on it, but,
So basically be investing in,
you're
You'd be investing
creating
in it.
another option for
spending
legal residents of the county or the corporation,
I'm trying to
This-
increase
this
our
year's-
enrollment.
to increase the overall.
trying to be more competitive, right? So we would have 2 junior highs competing versus 1 in the corporation.
there are, I think I mentioned, in sixth grade, so let's, game this out a little bit, there are 44 6th and 7th graders. So next year's 7th and 8th graders are this year's 6th and 7th graders. Springville has 44, and Lawrence County Independence School has 40. So that's 84. If you deadline them entirely, you've pulled 84 new students into our, and that's highly unlikely that you would completely pull all of them. Now, there are kids at Mitchell, there are kids at I think 150 is very, very optimistic. And I think you would more likely be in the double digit to maybe 100, 110 at the max, probably. So.
Well, I think it comes down to we have to decide if we want to invest in it, to create another option, knowing that the very first year is not,
That's not gonna be ideal.
we can't snap our fingers and go back to
Right.
2021 or whenever it was.
Could we, I know we're not gonna solve this in 18 minutes and we've got something else to talk about. Could we understand what it would take in a compartmentalized approach of a, similar to how the charter schools do, maybe similar to St. Vincent? How difficult is it to find those unicorn teachers that would be able to do all the different subjects and do them, on license, and then how much that would cost? that's even feasible. Because the numbers that Dr. Haley gave us were a full-up junior high, right?
Yeah.
Which are gonna increase your losses. But if you have seventh and eighth grade classes, similar to the charter schools, what's it look like? No, I don't think it's as good as an experience that they have in BMS. But if someone says, by God, I'm not gonna send my kid to BMS,
I'd rather have
Do
them
we
go
give-
to OMS under that
Yeah.
situation than to Mitchell.
well, that's what I'm
or
saying,
Lincoln.
it's
Yeah, I
somewhere
mean,
in
it's-
between.
yeah.
And then you could get a feel for, am I ever gonna pull students out of the northwest quadrant of the county with this competitive approach, or if not,
Yeah, and then you.
And we're in it
you
for
have a way to find out.
4 teachers, or
What it looks like.
something like that. I do think you do more harm to BMS than you do the, but I don't know what the net gain would be. I think it's worth looking at a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, BMS would suffer, but we're, looking at corporation-wide, trying to make, corporation enrollment increase, right? I mean, we're trying to be more competitive for these students across the board, so.
So I think that was a question to you two about, could we get that information to a degree? We can talk about exactly what we,
Yancy, does the idea of staffing that building scare you to death?
Well, I mean, obviously,
You're good.
your
You good?
stuff,
What?
it does worry me a little, because it is hard, and then what you're saying is the possibility of staffing full of polymaths, and then, that makes it even harder than just getting teachers in
Their
more.
uniform website.
well, I will tell you at St. Vincent, they have different teachers who might teach, one may do math and science, and then one does social studies and ELA. It's not like they teach
They
don't teach
everything.
everything, but there
It's
is
not like
a,
an elementary teacher, they have their
Right,
work.
I think
so-
we could
And
work
they
something like
change
that in
classes.
pretty easily.
yeah, so
And
it's,
have some electives as well.
like, and then they have somebody, it's just it's not like they have to teach everything, I guess is what I'm saying. Yes, okay, so, but you guys will we will figure out what we need to ask you guys to give us. So next, I believe Mr. Roll is on the Zoom. He's right behind Tracy's head, floating over it.
We're gonna put them on this one.
Oh, I think we're gonna put him over here.
We're gonna move it?
So I asked him to come, as well as Mrs. Hudson and Dr. Shipley, to come and talk about this grant opportunity for the school system. There he is.
He's behind Tracy. Hope he's
No, he's
both.
over here.
Better,
So I don't know if you guys want to start and then bring him in, or if you want him to start. What is the best way? I just wanted the whole board to get the information before we sign a letter saying yes, we support it.
So Rick and Megan and I had looked for some more opportunities for mental health funding. We put together a pretty big grant proposal last May, June, for the AWARE grant. That was a great grant, huge grant, was awarded to Hamilton Southeastern. They awarded like two or just one?
I think just one, and
So,
Indiana.
it went to Hamilton Southeastern. We gave it our best shot, but, under the impression at that time that we would have another opportunity to apply for the same funding this year, and they are not opening that opportunity just to another opportunity for AWARE. So we tried to pivot, and, we have a grant that is due April 30th, so we're on a tight timeline. So we went to Dr. Miller just to get her thoughts of whether it was worth us pursuing, putting time into, because grant writing, as some of you know, is hours and hours, mostly done in the evenings and on the weekends. And so we were just trying to get a feel for whether she thought that the board might be on board if we decided to pursue it. So then we had a great conversation with her. She made time to talk with us about it. And her role in writing grants for IU, it was a very quick conversation because we were all on the same page. She wanted us to share that information with the rest of you, so that we can decide whether or not to move forward with it. And so that prefaces this conversation. Rick and Megan have put a lot more work. Megan has put a ton of work into it already, because whether, you know, if we had to start then, even if it falls apart
Right,
and
right.
we don't do it, if we didn't start then, there was no way we could do it, so.
Right, and I just don't ever wanna unilaterally speak for the board without the board having all the information. So that's why so I said, go ahead and work on it, but we still have to have a forum where everybody gets the information, so.
Yes. So we're gonna do that really quick right now.
Yeah.
Rick, do you kind of want to, can he hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I hope
He
so.
says yes.
Okay. So we can kind of give you like a snapshot of what the grant is, just kind of the parameters, and then what we would like to do with that available funding, and then take questions if that
That's
works.
probably the best way.
Okay. So like Tricia said, the grant is due soon, and it's a federal grant through the Department of Education. So just thinking about timelines, of course, they recommend at least you start submitting things 2 days before the final deadline, because there always are glitches and errors. So the grant is up to $5 million for 5 years of funding. And they will make a decision July 1st of 2024. So it would impact this coming school year for the next 5 years. The smallest amount of money you can ask for is about $500,000. When I'm working my numbers and thinking about, based on a lot of information, a lot of data, I think we're right around 600,000. I'm not at that $1 million mark. But some of the priorities per year, yes. Some of the priorities would be to hire a director of mental health who is an LCSW, because that's one of our biggest issues is we don't have someone who's a licensed clinical social worker on staff. So we lose a lot of mental health providers because we cannot provide supervision, which is required for licensure. And so, like, a good example, somebody in Martinsville ISD, like they have a director. So when I'm looking at what she does, thinking about what that might look like here. We would also like to have 2 additional counselors, so one for Playful Pathways and one for Parkview, because they're split between buildings, and every counselor that we've talked to who has left has stated that as a big reason for why they leave, because they're stretched between buildings. The caseload is double the ratio that it should be, so they definitely need 2. Other items would be, because the whole goal of the grant is retention, so keeping our current staff and recruiting new staff. So one of the big things that we hear from our mental health staff is the need for continuing education, so we would like them to be able to join professional organizations and attend conferences every year. And right now, sometimes we're able to do that through different grants that I have or that we have, but that's not something that we can count on sending them to. We would also like to encourage some of our own mental health providers to become TBRI facilitators so that they could facilitate those trainings, because that's something the district has invested a lot of money in. So it would be an upfront cost, but then in terms of sustainability, it would be helpful down the road. A large portion of this is looking at collaboration. So we have built in, we would like to kind of bolster our relationship with Centerstone and have family support specialists that are highest needs buildings. So that would be, just based on the data, that would be Lincoln, Parkview, and BMS. And we have somebody currently at BMS, so the whole goal would be retaining that person at BMS. And then we could also provide therapy services from Centerstone. So just thinking about that, that gives us an ability to build up a caseload. Like, for example, at BMS, prior to having that family support specialist, there were 4 students receiving services. Now there are 49. So that really, like, having that caseload then they can eventually transfer off of grant funds and become a Centerstone client, and that's when they would bill private insurance or Medicaid, but we have to have the time to kind of get there. And then an additional, I'm just trying to hit the highlights because I don't know that we have a lot of time. We offer telehealth services at the high school, so through IU Health Sip Riley's office, that is something that we provide, and it's been a little bit of a struggle, so we would like to provide a stipend to a staff member to facilitate those services. Perhaps paying someone might make them more invested. Right now, I'm like heavily involved in that process, and the goal would be for me not to be as involved, and someone at the school to be, to kind of take that on.
And these are all goals under this $5 million up to $5 million grant. Right?
Correct. Yes, and Rick, you can chime in, I don't know if I forgot.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we're working on, several grants right now for your district. So a couple of them have to do with Lakeland Pathways. One of them is with the Community Foundation. And then this one is another mental health grant. And, we wrote the same grant, with our Richmond Bee Blossom. And the results have been phenomenal for them. When you start helping kids, process their feelings and emotions and deal with the other things that they bring to school with them, they're able to focus on getting the work done, right? And actually learning, which is the purpose of them being there. So, I think since we've been kind of collaborating with, your mental health advocate team, so all those SECs and counselors that are within the district, we started that work in 2017 with the Lilly grant. And so every year, we learn more about what the needs are for the kids in your district. And so, working alongside your current staff and Megan and Pertha, we've been able to kind of create this idea of what you could use these grant funds for.
Downside, any?
Of course, I mean, just with it being grant funding, right, is that it's a 5-year limited period, but then hopefully, I think, like I said, there are systems that we could build in place to make it sustainable, and I think we just have to be conscientious of that, but that's, of course, the biggest downside. Personally, probably a lot more work for me.
You're well done. So this started with an identified need.
Correct.
We didn't just, there's a grant available, let's find a way to spend it, right? We actually had a need.
We have, yes.
I would like to see, obviously not before this deadline, but just a report or comprehensive summary or something on what the state of this or mental health capacity is in terms of coverage and
That's a great
employees
question.
and all that.
So
that-
we have a little bit of data. We
Well,
could probably
Just from the
further
corporation
Correct,
standpoint.
but we
I-
just-
You know,
so the-
'cause we had an MOU last September for one, right?
That was the
Centerstone.
Centerstone, so that's the services
Centerstone,
provided,
yes,
that's
right.
that partnership
Okay.
that we have in place already at Bedford Middle School.
Yeah, a couple things I would like to talk about, but I'd like to see,
So all of our schools just took the Indiana Youth Survey from IU's Prevention Insights. So as part of us receiving VISCA funds, the 6th graders through 12th grade took that survey. And on that survey, there are questions. We opted in for the questions about students' emotional and mental health status. So when I get those reports, of course, I will share those reports. We just haven't gotten them yet because they just took it right before spring break.
like to just get a report on need and coverage and gaps or whatever, and just in general, you know, something.
Oh, yeah.
When, either when you have time or when you have time between now and June.
Generally, we need to have the
We need to,
go forth and conquer approach. As long as you don't get a grant for 5 and spend 6. I think
What?
go for it, you know?
Figure out how to keep it.
Are there any
You
other,
gotta keep it.
any other questions?
keep it coming.
Is everybody okay for Dr.
Yes.
Miller to sign
Yep,
off?
yep.
Yep.
Sign.